What's up everyone, welcome to Blood, Sweat, and Gears. Today we are reviewing some Auxito LED high beam bulbs. These were sent to me for free for the purpose of the review, but everything I say in the video will be my own opinions. They're not paying for the review, just figured I should let you guys know. So without further ado, let's unbox it and get right into it.
Inside the box, you'll find a pair of white gloves to make sure we keep the bulbs clean during the install process, a service and install kit with zip ties and double-sided adhesive along with some replacement O-rings and an Allen wrench to make the install nice and clean, along with our install instructions, and lastly, of course, you get the bulbs themselves, along with their integrated modules for the controllers and the fans built into the heatsink to maintain a cool temperature to keep the bulbs from overheating and burning out. Alright, so we're ready for the install. This should be a relatively easy process depending on the car you have and how much access you have. I have an aftermarket intake on this car, obviously, so getting to the high beam shouldn't be too difficult. On these headlights you have your main beam, your high beam, and your fog light all built into the one assembly. So our high beam is going to be our just center one here. So I'm going to go ahead and get that unscrewed. It should just be a quarter turn latch on the bulb itself. And there it goes. Make sure we disconnect the power connector as well. Now, we really don't want to touch the actual glass portion of these bulbs because these are halogens. And these bulbs are still good, so in case I don't like the LED production of these lights, I will just throw these ones back in. There it goes. Put that in a safe place where it's not going to get grease and oils on it. Now we're going to open up our new box. We're going to make sure we give this car the white glove treatment it deserves. And these are, again, mainly just to make sure you don't get your greasy skin oils on the bulb itself. On normal glass halogen bulbs, that is a pretty big deal. Otherwise, they'll get so hot the glass will explode and you'll destroy the bulb. LEDs is not as big of an issue, but just to be safe, you want to make sure you don't touch the diode itself. Now, these obviously have an extra pigtail connector for their controller box here. So it shouldn't be too hard to plug it back in. So I'm going to get it in the housing first and then worry about getting it plugged in. Just going to snake it down on in there. Make sure it fits. Oh, also these are fanned LEDs. Oh, you see I've already ruined that glove. These are fanned LEDs, so you want to make sure that you have clearance for the fans to spin and move air through the heatsink as well, because like most bright light bulbs, these will get pretty hot. You want to make sure you don't burn them out. Alright, the diode's in there, and I don't want to ruin these gloves any more than I already have, so I'm going to take them off. Not worried about touching the actual diode anymore. Go ahead and place that into the housing, get it seated flush, and then give it its quarter turn or so. Make sure it turns all the way, it's fully locked, which it is. We take our harness and just plug it right on in. Alright, now we have that light actually installed. They do provide you with some zip ties, some spare O-rings in case you want to reseat them in the future if they fail. It looks like some adhesive as well to mount the ballast if you do wish to do so. And an Allen wrench, I'm not even sure what that's for. These are toolless installs, possibly to pull that heatsink off for maintenance or something. So here we have our double-sided adhesive with the foam in the middle. It is 2 pieces, so I'm going to go ahead and tear off one piece for this side, set the other aside for later. What I'm going to do is just take my ballast here, and I'm going to just put the adhesive on the side of the headlight housing to keep it nice and tight, make sure this whole piece of harness isn't flying everywhere. So it looks like I found the perfect spot for it right here on the side of the headlight housing. This is a nice open space. I'm going to take a rag, just wipe off any dust and dirt that's on there so we make sure we get a good adhesion. Alright, that looks good. So we're going to peel off the one side of the backing paper here, stick that on the back of our controller, ballast controller, whatever this actually is, I'm not sure. Make sure that's on there nice and tight. Peel off the other side and stick that on the side of the housing where we want it, which I think is about there. The foam is nice because it is vibration proof, so vibrations of the engine shouldn't damage anything inside the controller. We do have a little bit of loose harness here, but it's not super crazy and dangling near anything spinning or really worrying. So I'm going to just tuck it down a little bit, make sure it's not in the way of the fan for the bulb, just like that. And there we go. One side done. I'm going to knock out the other side off camera, and then we can test out how these lights perform. So one thing I do want to mention before I install the other side here, just looking at the plugs, you can see they're pretty much identical. However, one thing I noticed is this is the old halogen that we just removed. You can see it just has that one top tab for the connector, whereas the old one does have two. Now that does mean these can go either way, so you want to make sure you get the polarity right. If you plug it in and it's not working, just flip the plug around. So if you're working in a tight space, it might be a good idea to make sure the bulb works before you fully install it in the housing. But because there are two prongs and not just the one, it does go into the harness on the car just fine, and it does click, but you might be putting some extra pressure on the harness there. So if you have an especially old car, you might just want to keep that in mind and be careful. Make sure you don't break the actual connector on the car itself as well. Well, with the bulbs installed, it's time for the comparison. Here's what it looks like with the stock low beam HIDs on the Evo 8, which are already pretty good. And then we can show what the stock halogen high beams look like alongside. As you can see, there's already plenty of good light throw as far as distance goes, and it's a very smooth beam pattern. The biggest thing I'm looking for is how well do the LEDs also throw the light down far in the road for those mountain passes and back roads. Now comparing to the new LEDs, of course you have the cooler color temperature with the LED bulb, and to my actual surprise, the LED output is very, very bright, but also it throws the light very, very far in these reflector housings. So not only do you have the increased light output, but as you can see, it still throws the light way down the road, I'd say potentially even further than the halogen bulbs. Here's a up and down side-by-side comparison with the old high beams down below and the new LED high beams up above. As you can see, you have way more light output with the LEDs. Also for comparison, this is my 1999 Saab 9.3. These have a standard glass reflector housing that I have installed LED bulbs into. As you can see, the beam pattern is very scattered and not uniform on low or high beam, even though these are positioned correctly, and does not throw the light nearly as far as it does in a better housing such as the ones on the Evo. Here's another side-by-side comparison for you on the Saab down below and the Evo up above. A lot of your results will vary depending on the housing itself, and a key factor is making sure the bulb is pointed as so, with the diode side by side to minimize glare and maximize the light output and production out of your housings. Here's the Evo driving down the road, comparing the main beam to the high beam, and as you can see, plenty of light going a long ways down the road to make sure we can avoid any kind of wildlife and see as much as we can on a dark road with no other drivers. And then as a comparison, here's the headlights in the Saab as well. As you can see, the light output is decent, but it does not throw the light nearly as far as it really should. As you can see, we even have an animal coming up on the road here on the right side that decided to cross in front of the car. And this is the main reason that we want nice, bright light output on dark roads like these. In the long run, I'm very impressed and very happy with the light output on the Auxito LED high beam bulbs. They made a world of a difference to the amount of light output, but also, as I mentioned earlier, they throw the light down the road very well in the Evo's housings. So thank you all so much for watching. Make sure if you're going to pick up a set of these lights or anything else this company offers, use our discount code at the bottom of the screen or down in the description to get yourself a nice little discount as well, and it does help us out at the channel at the same time. Thank you all again. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you all in the next one.